It's the end of September. It's very nice outside for those of us that live north, at least in Ohio. I wanted to record outside today. That didn't work out. And now I'm back in my basement. I want to share a story about planning. It's not really controversial, but it was slightly controversial in our area. We got a note from the city that we live in, and that the mayor has said that Halloween is going to be celebrated on October 30th instead of October 1st. People are enraged about this. Honestly, I don't really care, like whatever. And the reason he did that is because the high school football game is on Halloween. The stadium is in a neighborhood that will be filled with little kids trick-or-treating and tons of high schoolers driving through the neighborhood. So if I had to choose sides, I would choose the mayor's side, because as a parent, I don't want little kids running around cars that are being driven by high schoolers who are more distracted, might have friends in their car, might be on their phone, all sorts of things. It's just a bad recipe. I would think that the people that live in that neighborhood probably are pretty thankful. I mean, I don't know. There's definitely people who are pretty upset that the football game wasn't canceled or moved to a different day, that there wasn't more foresight into the date of the football game. I don't know any of the details behind that, but at the end of the day, you know what? They're trying to plan. They're keeping safety in mind. Not really a big deal. And for my family, I told my stepdaughter that the kids can come over and trick or treat on the 30th, and then they can go home and trick or treat on the 1st. So win for both. But the reason I shared this story is because it involves planning. We do the best that we can with the information that we have. With the holiday season coming up, planning is pretty important. A lot of people get caught up in, oh my gosh, January hit, we now have no money. I want to talk about some ways that us ladies in midlife or any age that might be listening to this podcast could plan for the holiday season. None of us want to be that woman in January that are opening up our credit card bills and feeling sick to our stomach because we are in a bind trying to pay them, or just how much we spent and trying to dig out from that. Since this is really going to come out at the very end of September, early October, this is a good time to start. It feels so much better when you can plan ahead. And I realize that not everybody's circumstance allows for a lot of extra, but where you can plan ahead, it will help you in the long run. So maybe start with creating a list. The years that I don't create a list of gifts are the years that I end up at the couple days before Christmas going, I have more for this kid than I do for this kid, or I forgot a gift for this friend, or, maybe I bought more for this family member and not enough for that family member. When you plan ahead, it kind of takes care of that. But the other thing it does is it allows you to start planning while you're out. I don't like to run errands particularly. I know some people love to shop. That's not my favorite thing to do. And I end up buying probably 75, maybe higher percent of my gifts on Amazon, so I don't have to deal with going out. But not everything's on Amazon. Most things are on Amazon, but not everything is on Amazon. It's good to have an idea of what you want to get people, and that way when you are running your errands, or if there is some place that is kind of out of the way, you can plan ahead and pick those things up. What I would do is prioritize, here are my most important gifts, here are I probably need to get these gifts, and here are nice to have gifts. And that might be based on people. So you have your immediate family. I always prioritize the kids first. I tell my husband and I will cut ourselves out almost instantly most years. And then I even tell my sister, like, don't get me anything. I have a bigger family. I'd rather the kids get something. I don't need anything. We try to balance out based on the kids, my nephew, and then my parents, and then kind of everybody else is like, depends on what we're doing, who we're going to see. I'll make plans based on our annual plans, really. But then when I have some ideas about what I want to get each person, it gives me time to say, okay, this paycheck I'm going to buy for these two people. Next paycheck I'm going to buy for those two people. I know that I'm going to be in this town and that's where this store is. So I'll get this on that paycheck. And then by the time Christmas comes, you're pretty much done. Hopefully you didn't have to charge very much, if anything. I'm not a huge advocate of telling people to charge anything. So if you can plan and stay within your budget and get your gifts, obviously that's best, but it's less stressful and makes it more manageable when you do that over time. There's a lot of reasons that we overspend on the holidays. I can think of years when I first got a job out of school. I wanted to get everybody like a big gift, not crazy big, but like bigger than what I had done before, because typically I was in school and didn't really have much money. I wanted to get, like my mom and my sister, maybe a nicer purse. I think there's some emotional choices that we make, not necessarily based on need, but the desire of, I might have more this year, I might want to spend more, or I don't want anybody to feel left out, so I'm going to get more than I should. Marketing plays a huge role in our world, and buying things that we don't need or feeling an urgent rush to buy things. Sometimes I wait for Black Friday, and that can be that can be a reasonable plan. If you know that you're not going to be able to buy everything in one day, I wouldn't wait for Black Friday. Maybe you know that there's a specific gift that you want to get somebody that will probably be on sale. Maybe save that gift for Black Friday, but I wouldn't plan to just get everything on Black Friday. And there's also urgency built into anything Black Friday. And some of it's true. You see videos of, we're only going to have 10, and once we sell through those 10, there's no more. I wouldn't even wait for Black Friday for that. If that's the case, probably not worth waiting for. So don't panic buy. I would still try to stick to your plan for the most part. I can appreciate not wanting to be, there's enough horror stories about going to like Walmart or Target at 6 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever, and people fighting like that. That does not interest me. Plan your gift list. Look at every person that you want to buy for and have a plan for them. Set a budget per person. We usually give our kids a bigger budget, then everybody else kind of filters in below that. And then track it. Maybe it's a notebook. Maybe it's a spreadsheet. Maybe it's a custom GPT that you're using. I have a solution for that if that's what you're looking for. A budgeting app, you can do that. But definitely plan ahead so that you're not caught by surprise. The other thing is not everything has to be store-bought. So what do you do? What can you make? Maybe just even as a supplement, what can you offer? I'll give you some examples. My stepdaughter has a young family. We could offer, a night or a weekend of watching the kids, if that's something that they want. And I think that would actually mean a lot to them if it was planned and they knew that, on February 20th, I don't even know if that's a weekend, but on February 20th, we're going to have the weekend to ourselves, something like that. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a gift that you pay for, or you can tie that in as an extra bonus. Build a schedule so when you typically get paid. I don't think most of us are surprised by our pay periods. I know that depends on what you're doing. If you're an entrepreneur, that's a little bit different. But for most of us that work for somebody else, you're probably getting paid on a pretty consistent schedule. Build your plans around your pay schedule. When you build your list, have your priority. We still have an 18-year-old at home. He will be my first priority, the grandkids, the older kids, and then my nephew will be mixed in there. He's a high priority too. And then my parents, and then my sister. I have a mental list, but it helps if you write that out. You know what you plan to get people, and you know what your priority are, so that if you are in a place where monetarily that's not going to work for you, to get everybody on your list a gift, have your first few priorities first, and then everybody else is if you can swing it, or maybe you're doing something like an act of service or making a gift for them. If this was earlier in the new year, so let's say this was 2026, I would say if Christmas is a stress for you and covering holiday gifts, maybe make a little envelope and put some cash in it every month or every pay period. And it might be a really small amount, but if that would help you get through the season, that's something you could do. Now, this is coming out in October. There's not a whole lot of time to do that now, but that is a great idea for the next year. If you feel like planning early in the year would really help. I think my best year, I bought some gifts in the summertime. They were summery type toys that really I thought you could use all year round. And so that was easier when the kids were little. I don't think that's quite as easy now. I feel like gifts are more seasonal, especially with all the technology now. Some things are already kind of out and gone by the time Christmas comes around. For toys and younger kids, I think it's easier to shop throughout the year and save them up for the holidays. Try to avoid overbuying. I can think of a year where I did this. I think it's easier to buy gifts for younger kids than it is for older kids, because they just want typically higher ticket items, electronics or games or things like that. I find that it's harder sometimes you want everybody to have a fair amount of gifts to open, and then you end up with filler gifts that at the end of the year you're like, okay, probably shouldn't even bought that because they don't care about it, and they might even just throw it away or donate it or give it to somebody else. So try to avoid feeling like you need to get filler gifts that really have little to no value to you or the person receiving it. Another thing you can think of, if you're struggling with finding a meaningful gift and that's really important to you, you can also do an activity or something big that we've done, especially with my stepdaughter, is like we'll pay for the zoo membership for the year or a museum for the year, something like that. That's something that they can do and get a benefit out of. It also helps them out because it's something that they wanted anyway. That is also an option, is an activity versus a physical gift. Now, I know kids don't always love that, but they'll love it every time they go to the zoo. And then at the end of the holiday, think about how this holiday went. What would you do different? What would you like to do next year to plan different? It's helpful to do it. You'd have to write it down or email yourself, something like that. But it's helpful to do that in the moment within maybe the week after Christmas to think about, okay, here's the gifts that I got people. Did I feel like that it was meaningful? Would I have rather done something different? Should I have started buying in June instead of November? Those are all options that you can do. And it will help you plan for the next year, especially if you're good with planning, calendar, budgeting, those kinds of things. It's really helpful to think about how you would like to go into the next year. And that gives you some confidence and control over the situation as well. I've kind of run the gamut on Christmas. I've had years where I've bought gifts really early. I've had years where I waited way too late. I've had years where I think everybody got great gifts. I've had years where I felt like I was scrambling and couldn't find anything that I really was wowed about. You do learn from that over the years too. For me, planning is probably the most helpful piece. And then it makes you, when you have a good Christmas and you feel like you planned, it helps you close out the end of the year kind of calmer. You don't have this lingering feeling of, I wish Christmas would have gone differently. I wish I would have been able to do this. And I think we all struggle with that from time to time. When you plan in advance, as far in advance as you really can, I think that helps you kind of close out the end of the year feeling good or better about the end of the year. Versus, I really scrambled to get it all together and it felt really rushed and hectic, and now I'm paying for it in January. So those would be the tips that I would have to get through. As a summary, start early, plan your list, and space out your spending as far as possible. And then look at your favorite app, or just a notebook. I kind of use everything. I use ClickUp because it's free. I like that a lot. I live in my calendar, which we've covered in other episodes. I also have a notebook. I probably should just use one, but I end up using all three of those things. If this is something that you could use some help with, I created a custom GPT pack, and that will be in the show notes. That will help you with all of your holiday planning. So let's say you have a lot of family coming over for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and there's people with food allergies or dietary restrictions. This app is geared towards finding foods that you can feed everybody. It's also a gift planning app, a card writing app, or not app, GPT. Lots of options with this. I really like it. I have had Christmas planners. I like them, but if you write in them, then you're starting all over again and buying a new one every year. So I really like the option of having a custom GPT to do that. That will be in the show notes. If you are craving ongoing support and just want to meet and connect with other women in midlife, I've started a membership for women. It's also called Second Act Simplified. And so that is for women in midlife that are just looking to take that next step, connect with others, and maybe do something different and take advantage of all the experience and knowledge that we have in our midlife years. Visit our website, ourdailylifestyles.com, for all sorts of topics. Seasonal holidays are probably our most common, but we also have a lot of lifestyle content that's geared towards helping you simplify everything at home as well. Thank you very much, and looking forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.